I didn't intend to become a professional Jew. It wasn't part of some well-charted career path. But my day job is running the Sunday school here at our local synagogue. One of the more challenging parts of my job is talking with parents about how to prioritize their children's religious education over soccer. So a composite conversation would sound like this. Phoebe, we're a skiing family. From January through March, our kids aren't going to be at Sunday school. Is that okay? And I say, well, what can I say? I say, yeah, no, totally. I get it. Like, what's at stake? It's just their souls, right? It's like, no big deal. One of the more delightful parts of my job is talking with children about God and about Torah. I'm not squeamish about talking about God because I can rest on the socialist, secular Judaism in which I was raised, which makes it really simple. There is one God, and we don't believe in him. But if I were hard-pressed, I do believe in God. I believe in God when I'm on an airplane. Because I think God hates planes. I think God sees planes as a sign of our hubris. And when I'm in a plane and we hit turbulence, I feel his irritation. I feel like he's saying, you're such a big shot. The earth isn't good enough for you. How about I shake you around like dice in a cup? I believe in God. God hates planes. I am terrified of flying. So, many of you know that Jeff and I adopted our baby from Ethiopia. What you may not know is that at the time, our State Department's guidelines were that we had to do this in 2 trips. Of all the sort of ghastly facts of that scenario, the one I want to point out tonight is that a flight to Addis Ababa from Boston is 17 hours. So, when we were doing our travel plans, I was emphatic that we fly with Lufthansa, the German airline. And Jeff said, why? The other ones are cheaper. And I said, the Germans are going to be on time. Their aircraft are going to be well maintained. And let's face it, they owe us a baby Jew or 2 or 6 million. So we fly to Ethiopia, we adopt the child, and then at the end of our stay, we're told to leave because now the State Department will take over and investigate the case. So we're told to leave, and we leave the baby in capable, loving hands, but we leave the baby. And as we're loading up the taxi, I feel as though my heart is being shucked out of my chest. And I cry, and I cry, and I cry, and 4 new organs grow in its place, each one more anxious and horrified than the next. One of them is saying to me, you've been a mother for 24 hours, and your first maternal act is to leave the country. The second one says, yeah, and you're going to die on the plane, so then the baby will have lost his mother twice. The third one says, what happened to you? What happened to all your good white people, middle class advocacy skills? Since when do you take any shit from the State Department? Like, why aren't you fighting? And the last one is just wailing, we're gonna die, we're gonna die, we're all gonna die. So by the time I get to the gate with Jeff, I'm like a live mackerel on a plate. My eyes are like big and glassy, and my mouth is down like this. And I'm clapping. And just then the Lufthansa flight crew walks in. They're all blonde and blow-dried. They're like this Teutonic parade of health and goodwill. And they all wave, hello, hello. And And I suppose it's very well rehearsed, so I suppose it's meant to inspire confidence, but I just get worse. My top 2 stories are now flooded, and my internal selves are just throwing furniture out the windows. And Jeff takes my hand and says, it's going to be okay. And I guess the internal people really like Jeff because they stop the evacuation and they all go, Jeff. And we follow him onto the plane. But as we ascend into the darkness, the plane bucks and yaws and kicks. It's like we're hitting roadkill at 200 miles an hour in all directions. And the flight attendants start serving the drinks, the Cuba Libre, whiskey sour. And the ice is clashing everywhere. And so I say, I guess a little too loudly, I say, respect the turbulence. And I look over at Jeff for comfort, except this time Jeff looks back at me and he gives me this weak smile and he does this Finding Nemo, like, just keep swimming, which is really too bad because now I'm terrified and I don't like my husband anymore. I don't like him for 2 reasons. The first reason is I resent the Disney reference. Disney hates mothers, hates them, murders them all before the movie even starts sometimes, or at least within like the first 20 minutes of the film. Bambi, Dumbo, Cinderella, Snow White, Ariel, Belle, Elsa, Anna, Nemo, you name it, Disney has killed off the mother. Because I guess you can't become who you're meant to be and share your magic with the world if boring old mom is around mucking up the storyline. The other reason I don't like Jeff is because he's afraid too. But he's not afraid of a fiery death at 30,000 feet. He's afraid that his wife is going to cause a scene. And I'm thinking, we just adopted a child, and all the empirical data that we have on children so far is that they cause scenes. Like, not just at the beginning, like the entire time you know them. And I'm going to co-parent with this guy. Fantastic. So the flight attendant leans in and says, something to drink? And I say, why, to toast our deaths? And Jeff boxes me out and says, can I get a scotch? Neat. And then he just sits there and he sips, staring straight ahead like I'm some wingnut commuter that he has to sit next to for the rest of his life. I'm out of options and I'm so scared and I can only hear the agonized wails of the 4 new beings inside me. And so I put in a call to the boss. I say, I can't do this alone. Please help. Please help get us home so that we can come back and do our jobs. And we had just pulled up out of the Rift Valley, which is the great, lush vagina source of all human life on planet Earth. And just due north of us is, right up at the other end of the Nile, is Canaan, the birthplace of God. So I wonder now if the reason I got such a swift response was because it was a local call. Because as soon as I send out my supplication, I read a voice in my head, and the voice reads, "You're not alone. I did help." The voice is annoyed. "I did help. I made the scientist who made those pills." So the pills that the word voice is referring to is a few weeks before I was at a Boston hospital getting shot after shot after shot for all the immunizations you need to go to East Africa. And to break the monotony of all the needles, I say, "Hey, doc, ha, 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 do you have anything in there that can immunize me from being a shitty mother?" And he looks at me and he says, "Is this your first child?" And I said, "Yeah." And he scribbles something down. And later that day, as I'm picking up our malaria medication at the Walgreens, I'm also handed a little sack of lorazepam. Lorazepam, for those of you who are not Jewish or Jewish adjacent, is in the benzo family. It's kind of like the maiden aunt to Valium. And okay, so I made the scientists who made those pills. So I hit Jeff on the arm and I say, sweetie, open the thing with the zipper and the thing with the small one. There's the small pills, they're really little and white. And Jeff, that devilishly handsome, whip-smart, loyal, loving life companion, jumps to his feet with cat-like reflexes, secures the pills, hails down Fräulein Lufthansa for a glass of water, delivers it to me, and in just a few moments, I've ingested them, and it's as though I've unleashed a team of thick-ankled nuns who have stormed the orphanage of my central nervous system, and they're tying each of my mutinous selves down with these nice fat restraints. It's like Madeline in 2 straight lines. I levitate out of my seat. I give Jeff a kiss on his head. I float down the aisle to the galley where the flight attendants are cooing softly. I float toward the one with the really large bosom. I'm to take a nap in her breast. And she looks up at me, hovering over her, and she says, "Sit down." I comply. I go back to my seat. The Sahara Desert unfurls beneath us. We bank west of the Nile. Everybody plugs in to spend the next 2 hours with Julia Roberts in a movie co-starring her teeth. But not me. My center of gravity has me listing east, pulling me toward the rising sun, pulling me towards my son. Thank you.